Most people by now have heard this troubling statistic. 1 in 5 female undergraduates has experienced some kind of sexual assault while in college. Some have raised questions about that figure, but no one disagrees that the issue of sexual violence on campus and off has been hidden far too long. This fall, the issue heated up again. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos announced plans to rethink a 5-year-old Obama-era directive that requires campus administrators to hold disciplinary hearings in response to allegations of sexual assault, rather than let such cases wind their way through the courts. For many, this signals a reversal in federal support for women's rights in general. Perhaps the most fundamental question comes down to education. How can women on campus and off be empowered to protect themselves from what's been called a rape culture that originates in the exploitation of women in media, pop music, and society? 4 years ago, John Jay College created a course in its interdisciplinary studies program to bring the topic out of the shadows. The course is called Sex, Gender, and Justice, Seeing Rape, and it's team taught by Professors Shonna Trinch and Barbara Cassidy. Among the most compelling things to come out of it are short plays written by John Jay students themselves, both men and women, based on the class material and their own experiences. Professors Trinch and Cassidy are joining us today to introduce a segment from one of the plays created during last fall's course. Later, we'll be joined by the student playwrights themselves. Professors Trinch and Cassidy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So, Professor Trinch, let me start with you. As I understand it, 72 students signed up for the last semester's class. That obviously says something. What message do you think that is?
Well, I think our students at John Jay College are really interested in the topic of rape and sexual assault and sexual violence. They are students of criminal justice. Many of them are very committed to gender-related violence. Some of them have suffered incidents of sexual violence or sexual assault, either themselves or in their families. So I think that there are a lot of people at the college who are very committed to doing something about rape.
This is the first such course anywhere in the country, as I understand it.
We know of no others. We didn't have anything at the college on the books with the word rape in the title. So we thought that we would rectify that. We wanted to have a course at the college that was called Rape in some way, shape, or form, since we are a college of criminal justice.
Did anybody object? Was there any pushback?
A little bit here and there. I think people are coming around to the idea and seeing the importance of it, but I think that the word is really taboo. I've done a lot of work myself as a linguist about the word rape and how people are really reluctant to talk about it, and that was one of the reasons that we thought we had to.
How does seeing rape help to prevent it?
Well, if we don't see rape, then we don't know it's there, right? And we act like it's not there. So how will we prevent it if we never address it or talk about it? You know, the idea to actually recognize that rape happens, it happens a lot, is a step, I think, in eradicating it in some way.
What's interesting to me about your course is that it mixes art and politics, or art and a political approach, in a very sort of unique way. I mean, you talk about the politics of rape. You're also talking about seeing rape in art, and then it finds its expression in actual plays that the students write. But is there an overall mission that you hope that you achieve? In other words, what do you want students to come away with at the end of each of your courses?
So, I mean, a lot of things. I want students to be able to talk about rape, talk about their own rape if they were raped. We want students not to rape too, right? So, you know, it's a big part of our courses. We have male students in the class as well, so we want to teach our boys not to rape then. And, you know, ultimately I think we want to eradicate rape on campus.
Yeah, we'd like, our students are students of criminal justice, so they're going into the justice system. Yes. They're going to be dealing with this issue as professionals. We think that we're training them to deal with it, to see it in all the ways that it exists. I mean, we do an academic study of rape, which means that we read critical legal jurisprudence, we do read all of the art, but we also read social science. So I don't see it so much as political as it is just a scientific examination of rape, from sociology, anthropology, the law. We look at it all over the board. And so they come away seeing these different perspectives and also understanding how rape is situated in this culture to do all kinds of different things. So it links to race in pretty ugly ways. People see rape as long as race is present, right? As long as but they tend not to see
Central
rape.
Park 5.
Right, the Central Park 5 there. And when it comes to boys, right, boys are raped too, but we tend not to see it. And so, we really do a very comprehensive study of rape, which we think trains professionals to go out
rape
into
is
the
not
world.
really a sexual thing. Ultimately, it's
That's
a
right.
power issue.
That's
So
right.
it's
But it gets in the way of what we think is a sexually just world. So we're really looking for a sexually just world because rape, right, and the way that rape myths get out there, the way that they construct women, we think is a real big problem.
We do know that rape is an issue on campus, on every campus. It's certainly an issue at John Jay, although we don't hear about it very much. When the students are part of your classes, do they talk about their own experiences, and have they had experiences that pertain directly to the subject of the class?
Sure, a lot of students have been raped and tell us they've been raped. We study rape all semester long, and then at the end of the semester, the students write original plays. And often that's when a lot of students tell us that they've been raped. And we don't want, the idea of being ashamed of being raped is like, shouldn't be, right? But we do, we hide it from people. We go through whole lives without ever saying that we've been raped, and we don't think that is necessary or useful in any way.
But then, of course, there's the question of prevention and punishment for those who are rapists themselves or accused rapists. And how well do you think John Jay does in tackling that? This is a commuter school. We don't have a campus.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have, a campus. We just don't have dorms on our campus, and that's typically where people at college tend to be raped, and that's where rape tends to be talked about at college. But our students are social beings who have social lives, and they go out, and rape happens all over the place. It happens in their homes, it happens at bars, it happens at clubs. And so it happens everywhere. It doesn't have to happen in a dorm. But just because it doesn't happen in a dorm doesn't mean that it's not John Jay's responsibility to deal with rape head on, especially when we're talking about students who need to graduate and they can't have these things get in their way. So we have services. We're really connecting our program with what's available on campus in terms of counseling. So we're connected with the Women's Center, we're connected with SEEK, we're also connecting with agencies outside of John Jay. So the students know that there are services and you can still be successful in college if this does happen to you, and you shouldn't be ashamed. There are places where you can disclose. We think it's really important to create space where people can disclose. It's not that more rapes are happening, it's just that people are creating more spaces where people can disclose, safe places.
Are either of you worried as well, just speaking as professors, not for the university, are you worried about the impact of Education Secretary DeVos's apparent willingness to rethink how campus or how the Title IX will be used in rape cases in campus?
Sure. I mean, we were worried with what happened with the election. We knew that lots of ground that had been gained for women, for people of color, for people from different ethnic groups, immigrants, we knew that all kinds of different things were going to happen. And so it's no surprise that Betsy DeVos is going right after Title IX.
It sets a whole different tone.
Right? But the Obama administration was the first administration, I think, to really take on the issue too. And now Cuomo's taking it on at the state level. So they kind of put it on the map and put it out there and said this is a problem. And now they're kind of rolling back saying, oh, it's not that big of a problem. We always knew it was a problem, right? And we are fighting for it to be seen.
How did the idea of plays become part of the course? Was that sort of a natural development, or was it something you're a playwright yourself, but
since I am a playwright, that I just wanted to get plays in there. I think when you look at the arts, right, it enables you a different door to get into a subject, and when you write a play and you have to make a character maybe who has raped somebody or a character who has experienced rape, it makes you think differently about, rather than reading a legal journal or an article that's looking at it in a different way. So it activates a different part of your brain, of your being, I think, and maybe makes you have empathy in places you might not have had before.
And Barbara and I are really committed to the idea of writing. And we think that our students are amazing writers. We want to give them space to write, and space to write the world the way that they want to see it, space to write the world, to be critical of it. So we think that the power of our program comes out of the fact that it's students representing rape from their vantage points, from their communities, from their knowledge. So it's all about tapping into their wisdom, giving them the tools, like letting them see all the science that's out there, and then showing them the art and saying, you can use this as a tool to write the world the way that you want it. You're going to be our future leaders. So for us, writing has always been a really, really important component of the course and an important empowering mechanism for our students.
What have you learned from the students that you didn't know before?
Oh, geez.
Are
We
they in a
learned so
better
much from them.
condition than-
Every day.
We learned so much from them. They are very wise. They know a lot. They know a lot. That's
More
the
than
one.
we did as
I
their
don't know
age?
if more than we did. I don't remember what I knew back then, but I tend to think
More
that
than I
maybe,
did.
probably maybe, they definitely know more. But they know a lot, and I think that we don't give them enough opportunities to tell us what they know. I think that's one of the things that I really learned from students, that we should just step aside and let them do it, right? We should just provide forums and facilitate and let them put the show on. And that's kind of what the idea is here. We hope that this will become a national model. Students representing rape, not us all the time.
So let's take a moment to see what some of the students produce themselves. But thank you both very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So I recently started doing this online dating thing, and it's not too bad. All you have to do is swipe and bam, I can meet people. I've seen some cute guys so far, but none as great as this guy who seems to have everything. He's kind and considerate, and he goes to my school, so I know he's smart, and he hasn't sent me anything inappropriate like some others. And we had a great first date. We went to the MoMA, we walked around laughing, chatting, flirting. Then we went to have sushi, we walked through the city. It was just a great time. It's easy to feel comfortable with him. Our second date was similarly great, but we had a third date and that felt a little off. Everything was fine as usual, except this time we went dancing. He asked me to come over, and I thought nothing of it, so I said yes. We got to his dorm, he poured me another drink, we started making out, touching, pulling down my dress. I was okay with all that. But then he started to awkwardly touch the cookie. Started fumbling around like he was flipping through a book. I think he thought he found my but no luck. He just kept rubbing, and then he just jammed it in. That's not what I thought would happen, and it's not what I wanted to happen either. I was just willing to keep it above belt, but he's such a nice guy, and you know, I liked him, and I keep thinking it over. I keep wondering what to call that. I mean, that wasn't sex, right? That was some bull, right? I'm 22, not an idiot. That was not right. That was awkward, uncomfortable. I didn't know how to get out of this bull. I mean, you tell me. I'm not too sure. I just know I wanted it to stop. Thank God I'm on the pill. Maybe I should have said something. I wonder if he knows.
I've been seeing this great girl that I met on one of those apps. Man, she's perfect. Funny, smart, sexy, and real chill. We've been on a couple of dates, and they've all been cool. I try to keep my chill, but you know, I have my quirks and my awkward moments, and she's cool with that too. I took her to this museum that she likes, and we went out and ate sushi and laughed and shit. I mean, we laughed a lot, so that's real cool. Our most awkward night was that sex night. I invited her over to my place, and we started hooking up. She pulled down her dress, so I knew it was all good. But then it felt like the vibe changed a little. I kept trying to get her wet, but it didn't seem to be working. She only seemed like halfway into it. But, you know, the was out, so I thought she was still down, and I stuck it in. I mean, I don't think I did anything wrong. I tried talking to some of my female friends about it, but they all have mixed feelings about it too. Except for this one friend who doesn't even look at me like a person anymore. Like, she told me that I did something really bad. I hope I didn't hurt her. I'm falling for her, so I never want to do anything to push her away. And she agreed to a fourth date, so you know, I'm optimistic, but I think we're going to have that talk about what happened. I don't want her to think that I don't care about her. Anything I did wrong was unintentional, and she should know that. I didn't know that could count too. I just wanted to be close to her. I didn't know.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Marell, great play.
Thank you.
The Unintended. That seems to speak for itself. What did you actually mean by calling it that?
Well, the play kind of leads into this, I guess, conversation, between these three characters. They're all talking about a different incident, and something happens, right? There's an ambiguity in the sexual experience, and that's really the unintended part. I wanted to leave it up to the audience to decide for themselves as individuals whether an assault happened or not, whether someone was violated or not, given how, the perpetrator spoke about it, given how the supposed victim spoke about it, and also given the relationship that happened afterwards.
So that goes beyond most of the stereotypes we hear about rape. That's either a rape or it isn't a rape. And you're saying it's not quite as simple as that.
Exactly, and I think that that's really the point, is that a lot of times when we talk about rape, we really only talk about it as a distinct thing. We talk about rape as very violent, or we talk about something that obviously could not have been rape, or we decide that since someone was drunk or someone was wearing something, that something couldn't have happened because something was, I guess, asked for. And I think that so many situations that happen with regards to sexual assault are ambiguous, and there are a lot of situations where people aren't sure what happened, where someone will leave it and then think, wait, that was violating, that did bother me, I wasn't comfortable. Or someone will leave it and be like, did I hurt someone, did something happen, and they're not sure. And I think so many of those situations are common, and we don't talk about it because we only talk about rape as if it must be this violent alley stranger, and I think that's unrealistic.
So that's actually kind of nuance that we don't really often know, but you're saying, in essence, that communication
Right.
is key.
Yes, absolutely. And I think also when you think of something like a statistic like 1 in 3, right? What does that really mean, or how does that really play out in...
I mean, 1 in 5 campus female undergraduates experience.
1 in 5 in a campus setting, but 1 in 3 in general.
Women altogether.
All women
Right.
altogether have dealt with sexual assault, harassment, or rape. And I think that we don't talk about a lot of those situations. We don't talk about the weird brush up on the train. We don't talk about, being at a party and you're not drunk and someone's grabbing at you to dance and you don't know what that turns into. We don't talk about street harassment. We don't talk about all the little moments that are just as violating or can feel just as violating as a bigger moment.
So the communication part is really interesting. In fact, some of the most interesting parts. Both of you guys are, as I understand it, inaugural students in a new course.
Yes.
That's sort of a segue from the course you've taken with Professors Trinch and Cassidy, called Sexual Justice Ambassadors, where you actually will bring the plays to your peers.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that, Anna.
So the Sexual Justice Ambassadors program, like you said, it's a new program at John Jay, and we're really excited about it. The idea is to bring the training that we've received both in the class and with the organizations that we've been working with, like the Mayor's Office, Womankind, groups that are designed really to help people to better understand sexual assault, to bring then that training that we have and the plays that we've both written and performed and been part of to places like high school campuses with high school students who are college bound, or first year college students, college athletes, people who, may be in need of some training themselves on what it is.
But that's a lot for a student to think about. I mean, they're thinking about going to college for the first time, they're worrying about grades, they're worrying about making new friends. Wouldn't adding the fear of rape or sexual assault just be more complicating for them and more troubling, traumatic?
I remember being younger and thinking that I wish that there had been something like that for me. The more that I went through the training, the more I thought this could have been really helpful for me when I was 16 or 17 years old, just because we treat it in a way to say, we shouldn't be afraid of this. This idea of rape is so scary for people, but what we're trying to, I guess, convey is that if you have had an experience, that it's important to talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. There shouldn't be things like fear or shame or guilt. And I think a lot of that is really wrapped up in this idea of rape. I think that's why the course that we took was so important too.
I also think that a lot of times we underestimate students and what they're able to deal with and what they are already dealing with. And I think the idea that maybe, a first year experience or a high schooler would be uncomfortable, well, they might have already been dealing with situations. They've already been in a space where their gender's been talked about, or they've had to deal with some sort of sexual issue, or liking a person might mean that you need to do something that you don't know if you're comfortable doing or not. And so I think that a lot of times we throw kids into situations where we don't give them all the information, right? Like, how many of us would have loved to have learned how to balance a checkbook before becoming an actual adult? And so I think that it's great to kind of give them the vocabulary by which to speak about or address something or acknowledge their own agency.
Well, it's interesting. The course, which is called Seeing Rape, and it talks about the culture of rape, and the mission is to end up with a rape-free world or a sexually just world.
Right.
But I wonder how much better we are, or you guys are in your generation, at really dealing with it than your parents' generation was, or grandparents' generation. These are issues that have always been with us. And obviously it takes politics as well as art to change. But are you more confident that we can actually make an impact now than we might have, say, 10 or 15 years ago?
Well, I think one of the reasons that I'm really excited about the presentations that we're doing is because we have all sorts of themes of disclosure, et cetera. But one of the things that I'm presenting on is this idea of being like an ally to the person who has had an experience. The idea of saying something like, thank you for telling me, of validating an experience, of being there for a person who has been through something like that. And I think that that is where we draw a lot of our strength, is to say, I'm here for you and I want to talk about this. So I don't know if we should necessarily be going up against harming parties and harmed parties. I think that by engaging bystanders, in the most basic sense of the word, that's where we can draw a lot of cultural competency.
I think also that this is something that we definitely learned in the course, is being comfortable with being uncomfortable and sitting in discomfort and recognizing that that's okay. And I don't know if we're necessarily better at addressing it, but we are better at talking about it than our predecessors. We are better at actually giving a name to it, giving a voice to it, speaking up and speaking out. And I think that just like in the history of the world, talking about something makes such a huge difference. Because if you're not talking about it and if it's not visible, right, if everyone kind of knows that something's going on but no one's addressing it, then it's hard to address it as a culture.
Obviously, the other side of it is, if we're talking about assaulting against women, it's the males who are doing the assault, or I guess it could be theoretically could be females as well. But do you find greater understanding among your peers who are male that, hey, maybe we should? I mean, your play suggested that, the guy after all says, I really like this girl. I didn't really have any intention of hurting her. And there seems to be more of a sensitivity on his part than there might have been for someone, say, 10 years ago in the same position. Are you finding that, or is it just as difficult to get guys to buy into this?
Great question.
I think that the course is really helpful. I also think that we have just now started to see things like studies where they say, they'll give things out to males that say, let's talk about an experience that you had at a party. How did that go? How did it make you feel? How did you feel about them? We're not necessarily using the words like, did you rape her? But we're saying, okay, did this happen? Did this happen? Because that all at the end of the day constitute as a sexual assault. So I think that changing the language a little bit, making people more, I guess, comfortable with the experiences that they've had, to then kind of say, this is something that, we need to talk about. This isn't okay, is really been helpful. And there's a lot of boys in our classes. We're a criminal justice school. We are training the people who are going to be police officers, lawyers, detectives, et cetera. It's so important, here, out of all places, to have this conversation. We're the future of New York City.
You think the message sticks?
I think
Yeah.
so.
I also think that there are more guys that are willing to talk about it. That doesn't mean that there aren't guys that aren't willing to talk about it or that are perpetrators themselves, but I do think that it's also important to recognize that there are more guys that are also willing to talk about their own experiences with regards to sexual assault and how they've been assaulted or things that happened to them that they weren't comfortable with. And I think that that's really important too, because it separates it from being just a man against woman issue, and it's really about power and entitlement.
When does your program begin?
Soon.
Have you guys, you're looking at citywide, or is it just Manhattan?
We're hoping for citywide.
Hoping citywide.
So, and this would be part of an orientation, I guess, to incoming John Jay students as well, or actually all incoming CUNY students.
That's the dream, yeah.
Well, I wish both of you good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Sexual violence is one of the most sensitive, hot-button issues today. The last presidential election campaign made that clear. But even as people debate how to deal with it, no one would argue with the idea that raising awareness about healthy relationships has to be the beginning of the discussion, both on and off campus. Education Secretary DeVos promised to hold a public comment period before she makes any changes in the Obama-era directive. We're waiting to hear more, but I hope you'll make your voices heard. I'm Steve Handelman. Thanks for watching. See you next time.